Hello, good evening everybody. Thank you for coming. I know it's a holiday week coming up, 4th of July, so we really appreciate you dropping by. We're going to get started. So just a little bit of background on Safe Routes to School and what we've been doing here in Acton. About 2 years ago, a group of folks from one of the local PTAs were up in Mammoth. One was Tracy, my wife here, and the other was Carla Walter, and they were looking at the Mammoth Lake School District, and they're like, wow, they've got all these great things going on up there with improvements, and it turns out that district got their improvements through Safe Routes to School. So those two ladies brought this idea back about 2 years ago, and we started this process. It got a little delayed because of the national elections. There were a lot of changes at our school district as well. And so finally we've got some traction here. So, and the reason we're looking at this improvement for the SRTS is, you know, around the area of this school, a lot of increase in commercial development, and it's really not a very pedestrian-friendly place to start with. So we've got kind of a bad situation that seems to be maybe festering, and I think there's a lot we can do there. So even tonight, as we drove in about 5 o'clock, the freeway was totally packed. There was an accident at Crown Valley, Antelope Woods. Cars were exiting off the freeway, passing people on Sierra Highway on the wrong side of the road. And this is a good example of why we really need to do something to protect our children when they come from this school to the library. So Safe Routes is a federal grant program, and it's designed for infrastructure improvements, and also it's an education program, and education and other kind of programs. So the way it works is the Acton Town Council is kind of put this together. We are partnered with Los Angeles Department of Public Works, who is the agency that's actually applying for the grant. The grant is administered by Caltrans, and also included is the Acton Agua School District, and the California Department of Public Health is going to talk about some of those education programs that help with the safety, and with the help of the support of supervisor partners. So that's kind of the people involved there. So I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves. I guess I missed my introduction. I'm Tom Costa, the president of Acton Town Council.
I'm Tracy Costin, and I'm a community member on the SRTS committee.
Lynn David, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, formerly principal of this school.
Victor Lay, engineer at LA County Department of Public Works, traffic lighting.
Ruben Cruz, engineer, traffic and lighting division for Public Works.
Hi, I'm Victoria Custodio with the California Department of Public Health. I serve on the Active Transportation Resource Center.
Good evening, Officer David Morales, California High Patrol, assigned to the Animal Valley area.
And I also want to say this is going to be a very informal meeting. If you guys have questions or suggestions during the time when our guest speakers are speaking, the speakers will take your questions. So we're going to start with Lynn David.
Okay. And I'm going to stand because I am just accustomed to being able to stand and see people. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge we have a Board of Trustee member here. Mr. Ken Falsgraf is here. I don't think we have other trustees. We have Dr. Weiss, our school principal, and we have law enforcement here. So thank you guys, Sage P and Sheriff, for coming. I think we have other officials, but I want to thank everyone for being here, especially the community. So just a little bit perspective from the school. I actually was fortunate enough when they brought the idea about Safe Routes to School to have been a little bit familiar with it. In my previous district, we did partner with, in that case it was Santa Clarita, but with with the city to do 5 projects with safe routes to school, and it really did benefit and make families and students safer as they were coming and going to school. So I was excited when they approached me a couple years ago. It's been a little bit of a slow go to get started because we have so many agencies. Where I worked before, it was really only one agency. Here we have Caltrans, we have Public Works, and I think those are the major agencies that have jurisdiction over our areas. But it's been a little bit slow going, about 2 years as they mentioned. We had a whole group of individuals, supervisor's office, everyone took a walk up the route that the children walk every day. So again, we don't want to misrepresent that we do everything we can to keep our students safe, but we believe we can make it safer. And so we took the route where the students walk through the dirt gravel over here, cross the street at the crosswalk, and then walk up. We did have the crossing guards with us on that occasion. So for years, even before I was here, I know that safety has been a concern. And so we've done what we think we can, maximizing. We changed the traffic pattern in the last year. We worked with the city to add 2 crossing guards, one here and one up at Sierra Highway and Crown Valley. But at this point, we really do need the help of the other agencies to make it safer. There are some things we just can't fix. Some of the visibility issues, some of the facts that the children do have to walk on an unpaved or unsurfaced area. So we were excited when we found out that Town Council wanted to partner with us. They are the agency that will take the lead. We are going to be happy to write letters of support. We've sent one to Caltrans and they responded. We're now working on this. So our goal as a district is to partner with them. We will be sending a letter of support as part of the package. We want and need the input of the families. I know that Dr. Weiss has met with the agency officials also to provide input, and we, as part of the application, and my experience in this has been that we do need community input to make sure that what we're doing meets the needs of the community. We do want to make it safer for children to walk to school, for children to bike to school. We want to make sure that all of this happens in a way that the community feels that it fits with the community standards. We know it's an equestrian community, so we've been talking in early plans about, and they'll talk more about that, how do we make all of this happen so children are safe. Primarily, our first goal is to get right here in front of the school and then on to the library safe. And then we do have some plans that we're looking to the future. In our perfect world, our children would be able to travel from the library to the parks because we do plan on opening up Acton School in the future, so that there's a whole pathway. But right now, this is our first focus. So thank you guys for all coming, and I think I've covered what I need to for the district perspective. So we'll continue to look for input that keeps the kids safe, but also works with community standards.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. I'll turn it over to Victor Lee. Victor is an engineer with Los Angeles County Public Works.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be with you. As you know, there is a need to have a walking path from the school all the way up to the new library in there. We know that a lot of students take that same route. We also know that there is a need for a walking path at this location. As Town Council has already mentioned, we are going to apply for a grant. And the grant is to provide a walkable path within this area. We're doing 2 items with it. One of them is going to be the access trail for the horses, plus a 4-foot minimum walking area for the students. For the trail, we know it could be DG, but for the walking area, we're still looking at other possibilities of using other materials for the walking path to also comply with the American Disability Act requirement for this. We're also having, in this area, also proposing to reconstruct the roadway from Woods from Acton to the school, because as you know, it's very deteriorated. We're going to also move the lane towards the north side because it's much wider in that area to allow more cars to be able to queue in during the drop-off and pickup time. So right now I'm going to give the mic over to Victor so he can present the project itself.
All right, again, my name is Victor Lay, engineer at Department of Public Works. I'm talking about the Acton Safe Route to School ATP grant project. I'm the lead on applying for the grant right now. So the ultimate goal is to provide this safe route to school between the Acton Agua Dulce Library and the High Desert Middle School. Serve pedestrians, cyclists, as well as the equestrian league. We want to meet all the active transportation goals of the Caltrans ATP grant. And we also want to meet the needs of the Acton Town Council, the residents, and the school district. So this is a very collaborative process. Later on after my presentation, we'll be handing out surveys so we can take your input and incorporate that into the project. Because right now it's a very dynamic phase, nothing set in stone. Along with that, we also have to meet our own design criteria as well as certain constraints, which I'll expand upon later. Of course, it's an incorporated community of Acton, and I'll go over our initial layout, but first I'll walk you through the key. So anything in green will be the existing sidewalk. The blue will be the existing DG equestrian trail. You might have seen it. It's next to the ranger station, as well as the library. And then the yellow will be the proposed curb gutter and equestrian trail. And the orange will be the proposed curb gutter and pedestrian trail. So this is the high-level overview of the map. As you see, it goes all the way from the library to the school. One of the things that we want to preserve are the existing sidewalks. That's just because of the existing constraints, the proximity of the grant application, which is due within the month, and certain right-of-way issues. So we will be extending the existing trail from the library to the ranger station down to Sierra Highway along the east side of the roadway. And then, as you know, there's the California 14, the Antelope Freeway. That's under Caltrans jurisdiction. We're in talks with them right now, and it seems like they will be handling all the improvements underneath the overpass. We'll also be extending the route south of the freeway down to Antelope Woods Road, and we will connect the unimproved portion along the south side of Antelope Woods Road, continuing on to the sidewalk at the school. So this is a bit more close up. When we pass out the surveys, you'll also find this map attached on the back. That's the southern portion. This is also a typical section that we're proposing. The reason for the curb and gutter is that there's right-of-way issues. So if there were no curb and gutter, there would be no protection from vehicles. As you know, Crown Valley Road is 50 miles per hour, so we want to definitely provide some sort of protection between the vehicles and pedestrians, cyclists, and equestrians. So if we didn't have that curb and gutter, we would have to have at least 10 feet clear zone. That would be 10 feet plus the 12 feet that we're proposing for the trail, which would be almost over 22 feet, which would require a lot of encroachment, a lot of obtaining rights and of the property owners, as well as certain constraints, especially under the overpass. There's just not that much space, so we're proposing the curb and gutter at this time. Some of the constraints we're facing are, again, the limited right-of-way, current and future drainage issues. So from experience working in this area, there's a lot of drainage issues, especially capturing rain, flooding issues at some properties. We want to avoid that, so we definitely take that into consideration in the design phase. We also want to consider the existing sidewalk, the driveways that we'll be encroaching on, as well as environmental regulations. Right now, we do not know if we're anticipating a lengthy environmental review, depending on which solutions we approach. All of this requires an environmental document, either environmental impact report or mitigated negative declaration. So that could take at least a year, a minimum year. And some of these solutions may not be feasible, so we're working on that right now. As well as the grant constraints. The ATP grant for this cycle is due July 31st, and we're working diligently to meet that right now. With that, that's the extent of our proposal right now. Yes.
Do you know what some of the things are that you're working out with Caltrans on? I know we have somebody from Caltrans, maybe they can speak about it, but the changes that are within there right away, you showed the things you're
Right,
working with.
I'll go back to that.
Can you give us an idea of that?
So underneath the overpass, it's limited width on both sides, as well as someone brought up visibility issues due to the grading of the soil at the off-ramp. So we spoke with Caltrans. What we're proposing right now, but it's ultimately up to Caltrans, is a pedestrian walking path along the east side of the overpass, and then the equestrian walking path on the west. That way, splitting it up gives even more room on both sides to accommodate the multimodal traffic. Along with the two on and off ramps, we're proposing some crosswalk improvements, maybe some realignment. But we spoke with Caltrans, and they're definitely willing to do their part in their right of way. Yes.
My name is Russ Fox, and I'm an Acton resident. I have two grandchildren who are students at this school, and another grandchild who was a student here and moved down to the high school. I feel I have a dog in this fight. I personally experienced a traffic nightmare of dropping off and picking up the grandchildren at this school and attempting to negotiate the turn back onto Crown Valley Road. I've personally been affronted by the reckless behavior of motorists exiting the freeway without stopping and pulling directly into the AM/PM or trying to access a McDonald's, endangering me and any children in the vicinity. I've routinely seen children walking on the road under the freeway and across the freeway entrance and exit, being in extreme danger because there's no defined walkway for them to get to the library. Now, my family and I fully support the efforts of the town council and the school board, the district, the Department of Public Works, Caltrans, in coming up with a solution to this thorny and dangerous problem. But I feel what you presented to us tonight is a Band-Aid and is not a solution.
So Russ, what further what ideas would you throw out there to improve upon the solution?
Well, Tom, try to get out of Antelope Woods after school. It's impossible. I mean, it's a 10-minute, 15-minute wait trying to turn onto Crown Valley. The traffic coming off of the freeway, I don't see any benefit to or any safeguards for the children with the cars coming off of the freeway, and that's the most reckless part of this whole situation. So anyway, it's nice to have a pedestrian and equestrian trail separated somewhat from the street, but that doesn't do anything, in my estimation, about the freeway exit and the freeway entrance. And that's the scariest part of the whole situation. We all drive this. Every person here has driven that, and you're tense coming up to the freeway exits because you know that people just come barreling right off. There's an issue from when you're coming from the south toward the north, getting off the freeway. It's a line of sight issue. You can't see the traffic on Crown Valley. So people inch up into the street. It's just a nightmare, and I don't see a solution there. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I came here tonight to see, a solution to this thorny and difficult problem. So that's it.
Well, if I may intervene, I'm sorry. My name is Ken Young. I'm with Caltrans. Good evening, everyone. I had the privilege of working with Jackie here, and we talked about the line of sight issues and some of the things that we're attempting to do. One of them is what I think Victor had mentioned in terms of there's some the embankment there, or the berm with the signs. We're looking to grade the berm, relocate some of the signs since the visibility is increased. In terms of off-ramp traffic approaching Crown Valley, we're looking towards informing, providing more advanced warning for motorists so that when they exit the off-ramp, they're aware of the conditions on Crown Valley when the traffic doesn't stop. And we're hopeful that those incremental measures will better prepare the driver as they stop and they enter Crown Valley. Additionally, we're also going to install some crosswalks along on and off ramps in conjunction with the pathways provided, both the pedestrian and the pedestrian trails. And then on another note, there's just pedestrians itself. We've been talking about internal measures as far as providing a barrier separating the pedestrians and the roadway. So I'm not sure if that helps a little bit.
I hope that saves some lives of children crossing the freeway entrance and the freeway exits.
Yes, and additionally, one of the things we're also doing is putting some regulatory signage. So when motorists, say for instance, make that right turn on Crown Valley from the school, going northbound on the 14, it's regulatory signage to emphasize the need to yield to pedestrians. So that's signage you may, and I haven't seen it too much here, but more in the urban areas, more often we're utilizing that. So hopefully that will help the safety aspect.
Can I ask you a question? The traffic on the 14 freeway 7 years ago was about 100,000 cars a day. Now, as of 2017, Caltrans data says it's 110,000 cars a day. You know, at the confluence of the 138 and 14 coming south. I read the EIR for the 2014, it was done in like the 70s, and it had certain stepping stones. When it got to certain volumes, you were going to actually make it more than the two-lane road that it is now. It goes 2 lanes to carpool. And when that happens, can't you redesign that entire off-ramp system to address Russ's problems? And B, isn't that pretty soon? Because as I recall the number, we're pretty close to the point where the expansion of the 14 is supposed to happen with the number of cars on it. I'm sorry, this is out of left field, but it's a permanent, it's a long-term.
Well, yeah, normally we have, we work with our planning. We have long-range plans. So I would like to. I guess this is something I would probably have to work with them on, but in general, we try to anticipate and expedite it. If it's not, ideally before school, then shortly, thereafter. But I'll make sure that the importance is conveyed to our maintenance staff. Because safety is our top priority, as it is probably with the county. So we hear and we feel your concerns, and we'll do our best to implement those measures. Yes.
Just recently, maybe just a few weeks ago, I noticed that there was 3 people at the corner of Crown Valley and Antelope Woods Road. It looked like they were doing a traffic study. They were there from morning until after school was over. It just happened to be a day that one entire grade wasn't even here at the school. So I even thought to myself, wow, they're not really getting a true feel. You really want a true feel, you should come first week of school when it starts, when there's all 4 grades here, and you're seeing, from the beginning of school to the end of school, how that really is
How long ago was this one?
This is just a few weeks ago.
It was very recent.
Very
because they were
recent.
also
Would that have been a county study, or would that have been a
It was
Caltrans
probably
study?
a county study. The people that I saw, I actually saw them when they were down by the district office by the park. because when we had the meeting with the supervisor's office, and I do apologize, I want to point out that Donna Tremere, I think I'm saying it right, is here from Supervisor Barger's office. So when we met with Caltrans Public Works, Caltrans and Public Works both committed to doing additional studies, and the people that I know that are from Public Works were actually, I saw them down by the school, by the district office in the park, and it looked like they were doing a study. So those probably, if they're the same, it was maybe 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
about that.
It was probably Public Works.
Yeah, because Caltrans, we did our investigation
Oh,
a couple months ago, and we were able to talk with Jackie, but I was there personally as well. So I was able to talk with the crossing guards and get their feel
I
for.
just thought it'd be a good idea to make sure like all grades are present when you do a study
Absolutely,
like that.
I agree.
You know, because it felt dead. I was like, this is not fair. I'm not really
Right.
seeing how it really looks.
Yeah, I mean, all our investigations, probably for speaking for the county too, we do it during the ideal conditions, and off-season is not ideal.
You just come
Could I
to
have
first week
you
of school, you'll
elaborate
see
on
it.
the crosswalks again? Because when you're talking about the crosswalks, you're talking about painted crosswalks, and then you're talking about signage that makes drivers aware there's a crosswalk. Is that active signage, or is that like flashing lights or something like that, or stop ahead?
It's the signage itself would be black on white, regulatory signage. And again, we take things progressively, so if people were not adhering to that, it could be obviously an enforcement issue too. But then we may go to, well, in the case of warning sign, we'll put a sign out there, and then we may go to a flashing beacon thereafter if for some reason the awareness is not there. But this is the first step that we can take, and I think a lot of times from my experience, it's the cost-effective improvements like this. It may not be very apparent now because the concerns are so great, but once they're out there and the drivers are made more aware, and we have the proper enforcement out there, I think once we put those signs out there, we'll work with enforcement agencies to inform them of that and to have their antennas up, particularly when school's around, so that if people are violating, they get ticketed.
So the only possible solution is incremental. We couldn't, we couldn't jump to a more active system. Because I was driving through Burbank the other day next to my high school, and they had a nice strip when the kids were walking, a nice strip of LED lights along the crosswalk that lit that crosswalk up, and it instantly you knew that something was happening there. And when people come off this freeway, the visibility's bad, which you're aware of now, and at the painted line, I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I think it would be nice if there was, would they know what the different steps were? So a painted line would be one thing, a sign would be another. How far can this go?
My question is, how long does it take from the painted line on the ground until those studies prove you need to do more? We don't want 2 years to go by from the time it's painted to then see the next level of getting people's attention.
Yeah, I understand.
Plenty of access.
Yeah, there'll be times, sometimes we implement things and we may say, well, we may decide on a 3-month, 6-month period to reasonably analyze. You have to give it a reasonable, you have to be reasonable in terms of, assessing the impacts of it. We could, the lighted crosswalk is normally applied with the mid-block crossing. It's not to say that it could not be installed, but in my experience, maybe the county experience, you normally don't do that. You normally would have maybe a signal if it was justified there. But we value we understand the safety concerns, but we also have to look at the value of what we're doing. So while crosswalk lines, and it's not just crosswalk lines, when it says Continental, it looks like a ladder, so it's like what you have at the intersection of Antelope and kind of Valley. So you have to give that an opportunity, and we're here to work with you. That if we hear you, and if we also witness these concerns, we'll take the next step immediately. We're very flexible. We want to make things happen, and we want the safety preserved, but we want to do it in a cost-effective way where we're using the tax dollar responsibly.
We all want our tax dollars used responsibly.
Okay.
My concern, I guess, is if we're going to create a scope and look at the things that we're going to ask money for, we just want to make sure we're asking for the things we really need.
Well, the things regarding the crosswalk, that's not related to ATP grant. That's
okay.
That's part of what we do.
Okay.
So Those interim
This is gonna
measures,
that'll get done regardless.
yeah, those interim measures with the crosswalk, the signing, the barrier, the grading, you know, that's something that we could do immediately. And you don't need to, you don't need approval through a grant.
I have another question for you.
Sure.
So if you're coming from off the freeway, and instead of making the left turn to go to Arco the right way, you cross direct to go to the entrance to Arco from Crown Valley, off the freeway. Can we do something to force them to make the left turn go all the way to make a left turn? Because at this time, the kids are crossing in front of Arco, and this car comes, they fill up gas.
You're talking about the northbound off-ramp?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's applications where you could create a video, or sometimes you could create a barrier kind of effect. You put channelizers there to basically make the motorists
Yeah.
turn right.
When you say barrier, though, what do you mean by barrier?
I'm talking-
Like aerial? Medium.
No, what I mean is just a flexible barrier where you have channelizers, those channelizers that when you hit it, you create that kind of effect there with the motorists, and you can put some signage too. Basically, you're telling, they have an application what they call quick curb, where it's a mountable curb with channelizers. So you're creating the effect that when motorists exit the ramp, they see that, they know not to go straight, or else they begin some barriers.
Yes.
And then in conjunction with signage, we could have them turn right and then left, because what I understand is there's another driveway.
Go directly, like coming up the freeway, and instead of going, making the right turn, and then move over to the left, and then you crossing immediately to Arco, to the entrance over there, and the kids walk in to go to the left.
So is that section, because that's actually on the Crown, is that in Caltrans jurisdiction, or is that in the county's jurisdiction? Just north of Antelope Woods? Because it's Victor, it's right now. You know, if you look at where, as you come off the freeway, it's halfway from the northbound off-ramp to Antelope Woods, is where they kind of come off to the right and then cut left. And I know that's been an issue for 10, 15 years. I mean, since my kids were here. So, I think there's been some channelizers put up and it's been run over. Or a quick curb and some of the mountables are probably a much better item. I'm just curious though, as we talk, is that, Ruben, is that a Public Works jurisdiction in that, or is that a Caltrans? Just to make sure, I mean, we're having a conversation with you, Ken, but so that everybody doesn't leave and think that Caltrans is on the hook for that. Let's make sure that we have an idea of whose jurisdiction.
Where the Arco station is county right away. Where the Shell station is in McDonald's is county right away. Anything between those areas is Caltrans jurisdiction.
Wait, so in front of the Arco, is that county or Caltrans?
In front of the Arco is county.
Okay, so then it's county.
Yeah, just make it really clear so we understand that the issue we're pointing to right now might help you. I just saw an accident here a few weeks back that somebody came off that off-ramp, and just like you were saying, yeah, you keep down, even though there's a sign there at the Arco, that where you go to the Arco, exit only, in other words, they don't want them turning in there, they just come down on an off-ramp, they really put the stop sign, quick bullet S into the Arco, and the kids cross and everything else is just not safe. And if we were to put some type of barrier to force them, this isn't really going to be you, it sounds like it's going to be county, going to force them to come down the Antelope Woods, make the left-hand turn, and then turn back into the other entrance into Arco, which is with the signage of the Arco. Arco has put up signs, I'm pretty sure there's signs, trying to force them to do that. But there needs a better barrier on Crown Valley, where, again, I think it's out of your jurisdiction, I think it's county. Right there.
Yeah,
Right there. If you put something in the middle that forces them to pay attention, because they're going to go into the lane, now they got to come down, several hundred feet to make that left-hand turn.
The
But
simple
that
way,
will slow them all down quite a bit.
the simple way of saying this is they're getting off the freeway and they're actually they have to go against the flow of traffic. So you're actually driving the wrong way down the road, whether it's 20 feet or 5 feet, but you're actually going across the freeway and cutting across this way. And so while they're doing that, kids coming over here are just, they're living their life, and this guy's worried about saving 3 seconds.
And
most of them, the kids are going to be on their phones, and they don't even pay attention. They walk and text. It's like,
kids.
so, yeah.
Yeah, there's
it's
no
even worse
crossing guard at
nowadays.
the entrance to Arco.
Right.
Right, that's the problem. They're at the street corner or elsewhere, but they're not where the cars cut in all the time.
So are you, because that's Public Works, this part. Are you guys getting what he's suggesting in terms of maybe we can incorporate that as part of this? Because that's an area covered by this, what you were recommending.
Some sort of a barrier?
Yeah, no, it'd be part of the grant, because it's at Arco,
So
within
are
county
you
right.
suggesting some sort of barrier on Crown Valley Road?
Yes, center divider.
Center
By the
divider.
Center divider.
Sí, canal.
There's already a short curved median there, but it's not long enough.
So they turn left.
Yeah, but basically some kind of vertical element where motorists coming off the freeway can see it and they know not to go straight through.
They're making an illegal left turn into a driveway of the Arco station, so they're entering Arco off of Crown Valley directly. Instead of going up to Antelope Woods and making a left and then coming around off Antelope Woods, so they're entering straight from Crown Valley, and that's actually making a illegal left. So.
And that might be just to get a big gulp, or it might be to get the gas pump or something else. They literally take the new line from the off-ramp into the driveway for the Arco.
Or you could just discontinue that access for Arco. Yeah, but it's there right now.
It's an exit, Jackie.
It can be an exit for Arco instead of entering. So they have to enter outside that exit. There you go.
That is the first time this issue has been brought to my attention. Public Works will definitely look into it and initiate a traffic study.
Or maybe if you can incorporate some of these fixes in this, because it's part of this program, it's there.
It seems more of a expedient safety issue, so
Okay.
we'll look into this separate from the grant program.
Okay.
And I guys want you to know that we're also going to be having 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on this campus next year, so there's going to be a lot more cars. The 5th graders this will be their first year up here, so there will be a lot more foot traffic and younger kids crossing those areas and stuff. So that's why it's such a concern with the crosswalk and the freeway and the younger kids and stuff having a safety route also.
May I?
Oh, no.
Yes. I do a lot of public hearings and get beat up at them like these guys. Welcome to Acton. The worst part about this was yesterday. I was very vocal a couple years ago because the only time we'd ever hear about this, short of Tracy and Jackie and the Acton Town Council, you just see politicians show up to have their picture taken in a newspaper, and that was it, and it would fade away. The fact that we're actually here tonight and have all these people here tonight, and they're telling you they're applying for a grant. So I don't think they want to shame themselves by just coming here and say, we're going to apply for a grant. Oh, we didn't get it. See you next year. We all freak out at us again. So what I'm hoping, the message that comes back from this community is this. The school board has put this as a standing every agenda item within what it is we can do. So the superintendent is expected to report every meeting that there's something happened or nothing happens. And after a few meetings of nothing happening, you start asking them, what are you doing? What's happening? So that's what's going on our end. But our jurisdiction is right at the school. The fact that you've got all these people here tonight is amazing. What I would hope that we would do is our questions, somebody up there is tallying the questions, correct?
I'm taking notes.
Say yes, that would be good for you right now. So, you're tallying the questions that are going to your agency. I would report those in an email to your supervisor tomorrow morning and paint them up positively that we had a good community meeting. Does anyone here think that this meeting is a bad meeting and that we shouldn't move ahead? There you go, you see that, write that down. So, I would hope that number one, we would give a hand to the people who have been tenacious in this as volunteers, regardless of the fact that it's taken forever to have this meeting happen. And I would hope that we would all send these representatives back, that this community supports what they're going to do. Your job is to get that grant and then communicate back to us what the study for that grant, what the funding for that grant, all that what it enables you to do with some of these solutions. So that's what I hope this is positive, and I hope we can send everybody back with a positive message. I know if you call the California Highway Patrol, they will show up at Madalark and write tickets if people stop behaving the way they do. Thank you.
I have another question. What happens if we don't get the grant? How can we move forward with any of this, whether or not we get the grant? That would be probably the number one question. Before the school year starts, what's it going to take? Do we need the news media parked on the street corners? What do we need? Right? Because we're all behind this. Everyone in this community is behind this.
They're all here.
And they're behind it too. But, you know, there is a chance that this doesn't happen through the grant. How do we make this happen with or without? That's
you know, we're really on a time short deadline to get this grant in, and we're doing our best to try to go in and apply it on time, making sure that it is a feasible project for this location. But yes, we will be trying to meet all the requirements as the grant requires us to do. So we are looking at other alternatives, such as moving, reconstructing the roadway on Allen Woods, restriping that area to allow more vehicles queuing on the south side of Animal Woods. Some of these items of striping modification that we could do right away could possibly be implemented once we're done with the studies. But I think the overall for the grant is for the Safe Route School. And that's to get the students safely from the school all the way to the library. And right now we have the support of Caltrans. We're doing our best. There is going to be right-of-way issues, especially at the northeast corner of Sierra Highway and Crown Valley Road, that requires the Taco Bell. That is going to require some dedication requirements for that.
McDonald's?
No,
Taco Bell.
On the other side.
Yes. We don't have the right-of-way for that at this time. And that's one of the biggest constraints that we have is the right-of-way issue. So if we can acquire the right-of-way quickly, we can move in quicker with this project. But I think the best bet is we're trying to do it for the safety of the children. We're trying to get them to the school all the way up to the library as safely as we can. Caltrans has already come up with recommendations that they can do right now, such as installing crosswalks, doing some grading to improve the line of sight issues. So we're hoping that we don't have to go through that and get rejected by the grant, but we're trying to do our best to apply for this grant.
I could piggyback also. So I had a nice meeting day, really, with Jackie, and it just highlighted the fact that there's so many partners at the table now, and I think Caltrans and Public Works will have some solutions, but beyond that, there's also partners at the county level, at Metro, at SCAG, the Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the state that are hearing your concerns. So my sense is that if the grant isn't awarded, because it is a competitive grant and there are similar needs across the entire state where there actually have been histories of fatality and injury to children, and it's devastated communities. And there's limited funding, although there is more funding for this round. So that's a piece that should be, that I think should bring you some hope as you pursue this funding. But I think that you have in Jackie a champion who is elevating your issues to a number of different stakeholders, and there are multiple solutions to safety. It's never just a roadway fix, an enforcement fix. There's always public education, and there's always areas for improvement through collaboration. So I think to continue on that path is essential, and what you have here tonight is a great starting point, but nothing will really transpire if you give up this partnership that you formed. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Do we have more questions for Public Works or Caltrans? Okay, Pam?
Hi, my name is Pam Wolter, and I'm an Acton resident. And I'm addressing, I probably don't need that, I talk loud. I'm addressing this to Caltrans. not only is there the issue of trying to get the kids from the junior high safely to the library or McDonald's, wherever they're meeting their parents, but we have children that I have seen, I used to have an office right up there, that are walking across Crown Valley Road to go to the apartment complex, which is just past the 76 station. Okay, there's no crosswalk there for the kids. The crosswalk people that are there now, they're just worried about Sierra Highway. They're not walking those kids across. I just saw that in this last school year. So not only do you have a crosswalk situation on this side, but I would like to see something going across Crown Valley Road. I saw groups of kids, 3-4 kids at a time, they're walking home to the apartment building. So we've got students there too.
Okay, so you'd like to see a crosswalk across Crown Valley at between the north or south
It would,
ramps?
yeah, I guess it would be, or it would be the,
Mid-block crossings like that, though, are inherently dangerous.
Yes.
they are.
Yes.
Yes.
You're better off to teach the children to walk across onto the north side of the street and walk down past the 76 to the apartment buildings instead of having them cut across Sierra Highway.
No, she's talking about going across, go past McDonald's on your right, go
Yeah.
across to the feed store,
Right.
and then cross
Yes,
and
and
go
then
west.
they're crossing to the west.
So you would have a crosswalk on that
It's
side.
that four-way stop.
And there is a crosswalk there.
I think what we've always visualized there was a
Oh,
four-way cross.
trust me, he
on every-
pulls this
every
stuff out
crosswalk.
of work all the time there.
Okay,
So-
well, it's not very visible and our crossing guard.
Well, and that's another thing that would be, as a temporary issue that Public Works could probably do
Yes.
in a
maybe
quicker
it's
manner.
Public.
Because that's a Public Works intersection.
So Pam, can I just, because I'll be honest, even when I was here in school, I didn't realize that we had as many students as we do that live up by the apartments.
Yeah.
So for my edification, and I suppose theirs too, because, you know, they haven't seen it, you're talking about, because right now the crossing guard crosses the students from McDonald's
To the
across
feed
to the
store.
library.
Yep.
But you're saying we need an additional one that would go from where the feed store is to
the
is it
west.
Don Chato's? Because that way the crossing guard can walk the students one way and then the other way. So what you're suggesting is that the crossing guard would escort them that way and then if need be, escort them that way as well?
If there's kids going to the apartment building, yeah, there's got to be a safety
Sure.
issue there. too.
Okay.
Okay, but I saw the cross guard crossing the kids to Sierra Highway, to the library, and crossing them to Shell gas station, go to Jack in the Box or whatever. So he's working this corner.
So that's, okay, so that's something that the reason I stood up, because I did want to say that we did have a meeting today and one of the things, because part of the grant is, you know, talking about the partnerships that we have. So some of the stuff, I agree, some of the stuff is clearly grant money and we were wanting it to be competitive in that. And so keeping our fingers crossed that we all work together and able to produce a grant with enough letters of support. I know that Jackie Ayer has asked, you know, for, you know, different groups to be able to write letters of support. The district will be writing one. But we were also talking today about some of the things the district can do as far as, you know, doing, you know, as things get up and running, including parent nights and sorts of things like that. I know that Mr. King is very, very interested. He wasn't able to be here tonight. He, before he ever was hired, he had a family commitment in Texas. One of his family members is having a celebration, so he's back in Texas and couldn't be here, our superintendent. But he is very committed to the idea of safety, and so we've talked a lot as a cabinet about the things we can do and having parent nights and doing and incorporating some of the things like parent, you know, student safety into some of the nights that we might have as a district parent night. We talked about that some more today. So again, it doesn't solve the whole problem, but it's a piece of the problem. We have a new resident deputy that he doesn't know it yet, but we may be saying like some of that might be something that we're calling on. I see it back there, you know, that we could include for parent nights, you know, either for this school or for communities. So again, that's one of the things, and I mention it because when I was still here and we changed the traffic pattern, the more people got used to it and the more we were able to talk with people about the reason we were doing it was not to inconvenience people, but find a small improvement in safety over what we had where kids were crossing to the other side of the street. So, you know, from right here, dodging across. So it's little pieces at a time, but we're happy as a district to work with our community officers and the agencies. So that may be a piece of it, and it's actually something that we're eager to do. So again, I think, we obviously are hoping for the projects because that's, the capital improvements are what we need for ultimate safety. But in the meantime, I think we can do that, and Caltrans, Public Works will actually, I think, you guys will make a note of that, that if we could have the extra ladder crosswalk perhaps.
I believe when we had the scoping meeting down in Lancaster, we talked about the four-way crosswalk there, or maybe an all-way cross at some point. So is that something that you have kind of looked at on this proposal?
Is that near the apartment complex?
So it's I can just jump in here and show you. So we're looking at Sierra Highway right here, going across, and then Crown Valley. So the apartment building, I believe, is up in this area behind Don Chavos. So we'd be looking at a cross up here, 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 basically all four sections.
This represents four-sided crosswalk.
Yeah, I think they're actually there, but they're very faint.
So if it's a maintenance issue, we can get our operational services to go ahead and restripe it on that point. So we'll notify our operational services to go ahead and restripe that crosswalk. Okay?
So what if we all got together at night and went out and painted it ourselves? What would you guys do?
They probably put you in jail, Ken.
Thank you. That's what everybody wants me anyway.
All right, do we have more questions for the Caltrans or Public Works? Yes.
I'm not sure if it's relevant, but along Alma Woods, where the kids are walking in the dirt to Crown Valley, a lot of times those big rigs are parked there. I know there's no parking signs and I know all that stuff, but then they're parked there and then the kids are trying to weave in and out of them. I know that the grant would fix that, I think.
Put a railing up so they can't park there?
I'm sorry?
Put a railing up so they
Yeah.
can't pull in and park there?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, that was one of when we started 2 years ago, that was one of the things they thought they could fix right away with signage. And those signs went up and the whole community exploded. And I think we expected to get no truck parking signs, and what we got was absolutely no parking. And is there a right-of-way issue there for? We're talking the west side of Agua Woods, when they walk from the school to Crown Valley, or the south side rather.
I know they got the parents to stop parking there pretty easy by just going and telling parents get out of here, but the rigs are usually looking at them or.
On Antelope Woods on the south side or not the north?
On this side, same side as the school. South side of Antelope Woods. Yeah. There's like a big dirt area, and that's where the kids walk with big boulders for.
So it's this area right here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, right along here. So trucks park here, and they run in. They either camp or they go into the store. I'm not sure. And
we can't look about putting no truck parking in there, but we still it's used for the drop-off area. So the only thing is we could probably just for a truck. They will be out there, so no parking can be there. Like Jim would say, we had something there and we knocked them down. Okay, but we'll look into it to go in and put no truck. We already put it on the north side.
Right.
We'll look into.
And they still park over there too.
And I agree, we put a big rig in there. And that's where the students walk.
So there's no way of putting up a barricade or anything because it's.
Barricade. Lineators, are you talking about, or?
Just something so the big rigs can't get in their park. Whether it be those floppy things you guys are talking about, or those cement barriers, like a guardrail, like on the freeway.
I think because there's no curb there, the trucks can kind of make their own space, and that pinches off the area that the kids can use to walk. So they're forced to walk on the street between the trucks and the street versus alongside the dirt walkway.
If we can put the signs up there, then it would be an enforcement, and then we would CHP or sheriff.
So the no parking doesn't apply to trucks?
I think enforcement issue, and that's part of this ongoing effort.
Put up the signs, no truck parking in there, then it would be an enforcement issue.
But aren't you putting at the grant we put in the 12-foot pathway and the curb? So
That we're going to build that.
yeah, that's so. I believe the grant will fix it, but
Is there a
If we're looking
temporary
at it immediately, so
yeah,
we can put up the signs, and there are signs study to see if it's feasible. This is probably the interim portion of it, but once the walking path goes in there,
Okay, I'm going to turn, we're going to go to the next agenda item here to Victoria Custodo, and she's going to talk about the non-infrastructure aspects of what we can do. So I'm going to give you the mic.
Victor and I didn't plan this Victoria thing. I'm from the Public Health Department, so I'm going to encourage you to stand up and stretch for a second, get your circulation going. Eat some good, healthy produce over there. It's a good time for a break.
yes, please, cookies.
Exhale about a little bit. So just what's important to know is that the ATP program is a legislated program. And it was set up specifically to encourage increased uses of active transportation modes, so walking and bicycling. And so this is a little overview of kind of what is funded. It's, the ATP was set up to provide a broad spectrum of projects that benefit active transportation users. And so again, that includes both the engineering pieces as well as non-infrastructure programs. And I'm going to get into that. That's the real meat of my presentation. I'll talk about in a bit. There are these goals that have been legislated, which are the benefits of the active transportation program. We're about increasing the proportion of trips accomplished by walking and bicycling, increasing safety for non-motorized users, advancing the regional agency's greenhouse gas reduction goals, enhancing public health, including but not limited to childhood obesity through the use of programs such as Safe Routes to Schools, and ensuring that there are meaningful benefits to disadvantaged communities. These are all goals that have guided the guidelines for the program and the establishment of the applications that are used in competitive funding. So one thing to note is that the ATP program feeds into a larger goal of the state, which is really about addressing switching modes of travel and specifically tripling bicycling and doubling walking trips by 2020. So if you have time to do some additional reading, I can provide you with this link to this report that gives you a status of the program, and it actually highlights all of the different cycles and what's been funded to date. So I'm going to jump into non-infrastructure program. So we have law enforcement here today. We have CHP as well as the Sheriff's Office, so I'm not going to really cover enforcement, but from the dialogue today, it's clearly an essential part of how you move forward with addressing student safety. So I encourage you, to talk about it more fully, and we'll hear from David in a bit about his ideas and what's happening at CHP that can enhance your efforts here. But I'm going to talk about education and encouragement, and just make the distinction that one is about raising awareness and competencies of bicyclists and pedestrians, and then the second is really about generating enthusiasm and excitement, so that more people actually are considering walking and bicycling for their transportation purposes. So again, the ATP is all about getting people to switch, to get out of their cars and consider using walking and bicycling for the trips that they can do through those modes. All right, so here are just some different kinds of programming that we know are signature programs of Safe Routes to School programs that have been funded through the Active Transportation Program. So we've seen a lot of educational assemblies funded, where school districts will partner with Public Works, and they'll set aside a portion of the grant to pay for a contractor to come in and actually do an educational program. And there are some really good presenters out there that are both educators as well as students of traffic safety, and are can provide some really comprehensive programming. So it's stuff that we at the Transportation Resource Center can provide you with if that's something that you end up pursuing as a community. There are programs that do classroom-based education, and so they'll use existing curriculum. And this is actually one that was produced by the California Department of Education in partnership with Caltrans, and with facilitation from the California Department of Public Health. And some of the curriculum materials already meet state standards, whether it's core, health standards for different grade levels. We can connect you to curriculums that you might want to use for the appropriate age groups. We see a lot of ATP applications, those that have been funded for both infrastructure and non-infrastructure, building in components to after-school programming or weekend enrichment strategies. And so these can be led by the city, by the town council. It can also be led by the school district, or in some cases through local law enforcement. So some of these include mock cities. So this is the picture on the right is a pedestrian education mock city simulation for elementary age students. And so the jurisdiction actually designed a city and demonstrates to the children how they can safely walk across the crosswalk. It's just reinforcing behaviors that we all know but may need a little extra time learning or practicing. Bike rodeos are the equipment for cyclists. Again, it's like, what are the expectations and signs when you're crossing major roads? And then they also, these rodeos also give an opportunity to practice skills in a safe environment that's off-road. So I talked a little bit with your superintendent today, assistant superintendent, about different ways that this could be incorporated here into Acton based on the space that you have and the partners that you have in place. And just to be clear, that the bicycle rodeos and the mock cities the content can always be designed to meet the developmental needs of different ages, abilities, and experiences. So it's not something that just is unique for elementary age kids. There's definitely a lot that can be applied for junior high and high school age students. And we do see in some instances the older students, junior high and high school students, actually serving as station staff for the younger students, so that there's actually inter-age education going on. Okay, so some of the education can also take place on the actual roads, and so this is a school that a district that's built in cycling education into their curriculum, and part of the curriculum takes the children into a real life road environment so that they have the understanding of what's expected of them as road users on cycles. One of the things I wanted to mention is that Los Angeles Unified School District actually has an ATP award. They actually have a standalone non-infrastructure award, which allows them to teach, to have their PE teachers trained to do bicycling education as part of the middle school curriculum. And it's just a pilot with 30 schools in LA Unified School District, but they're using existing curriculum, and they're using partners through the LA Bicycle Coalition as their educators. And so it's a really nice way to ensure that there's capacity at the schools for teachers that want to do this past the life of the grant. And one thing I also want to say is that all of the materials that are generated through the ATP program will come back to the Acton Transportation Resource Center, so that anything that's built and developed through the different investments is something that we'll be able to then share with those of you that are interested in maybe applying it to your own communities. So for older students, we've seen that many communities build in service learning and leadership opportunities, and again, there's some resources, different facilitator guides for middle school teachers and possibly high school to train and support student leaders in safe walking and bicycling promotion. And again, it's by building in their input into the way a campaign is run, you can cool-proof it. This is not my slide, this is somebody else's slide. I knew that saying cool-proof is not cool. Oh. So many materials already exist. At the Resource Center, we have curriculum, lesson plans, brochures, website videos, maps, and there's a lot of campaign materials and media that's already available. And we do have, we are able to provide some kinds of equipment. If you're doing walk audits or trust guard trainings, we will probably coordinate with our local public health departments to give you materials that you might need. But that's also, the equipment actually can be purchased through the grants. At the state level, we want to make sure that there is cost savings built into the program, so we would ask that anyone who's awarded these to do these programs would consult us beforehand to see if there are existing materials that can be customized for your own use. And then I'm glad that, again, the superintendent brought up the parent education, and that's another piece that we see in the active transportation program. Parent education can be around bicycling and pedestrian safety expectations, specifics about school drop-off and pickup, the expectations for driving, and then also the education can extend beyond parents and encompass the entire community. And then there can be an experiential component with that too. And there can be, just like the rodeos for children, there can be a piece for adults, and actually that presents a really great learning opportunity and an opportunity for reinforcement, which will definitely help with safety. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is who's heard about International Walk to School Day?
Now I have.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so Safe Routes to School is part of a larger movement. So the active transportation now encompasses Safe Routes to School, and Safe Routes to School is this international movement to encourage more children to walk for health purposes, for independence purposes, for growth, development. And so all across the globe, the first Wednesday in October is International Walk to School Day. So there's a big movement, there's a lot of resources and supports from the federal level and the state level to encourage schools to participate. This is definitely something that can be supported through an ATP grant. We've seen school districts apply for, in partnership with Public Works, for some staffing money, some staff salaries to help coordinate these efforts if you're serving a number of schools. You don't necessarily have to have money for staffing, but you can also have money for the things that you might need, whether it's, you can't buy certain things there, we could go, the HRC can go over different eligibility, reimbursement eligibility rules with you, but there's a lot that you can do to fund the coordination of this program. Beyond that, if you don't want students walking to and from school by themselves, we've seen communities set up walking school bus programs. We have a lot of guidance on how to do this. We also know a lot of partners, both in public health and education, and in transportation actually, that can serve as good local liaisons, and at the state level we can definitely help with that. In parallel, we have also guidance on bicycle trains and how to set up so that students are riding together along a designated route at designated times with the purpose of arriving in school together. So this is all a way to encourage more walking and bicycling within the community. And National Bike to School Day is in May, also in the first week of May on Wednesdays. The first Wednesday. Okay. Another way of making walking and bicycling to school fun, and these can be scaled up for the community, but this is definitely something that's unique to Safe Routes to School, or it's been a signature part of Safe Routes to School, is creating friendly competitions across schools or across classes, making makeshift trophies out of sneakers, putting a sneaker on wheels, recycling old trophies that might have no application anymore, any value, but turning them into the Silver Sneaker Award, or the Golden Sneaker Award, or the Golden Wheel Award for the class that might have biked the most.